Hello and welcome to this RapidDeploy 5.0 how-to guide. My name is Richard Bettison and today we're going to be looking at RapidDeploy infrastructure. So in RapidDeploy, the infrastructure panel is a list of logical servers, and each server definition consists of one or more IP addresses or host names and how to connect to them. Additionally, the server definition might be backed by a cloud plugin such as AWS or Azure or VMware to manage a cluster of servers in whatever way is required for that particular plugin. And each server can have on it multiple installations, and we show that in a diagram here. We've got the infrastructure panel, list of servers, and a set of infrastructure can be installed on each server. Okay, so let's go ahead and log into RapidDeploy. Okay, so when we've logged into RapidDeploy, we come to this main console page, and to look at infrastructure we can simply click on the infrastructure link, and we see that we've got one predefined piece of infrastructure, localhost, and then the infrastructure that you've actually installed RapidDeploy onto. So I've installed it onto a Mac, so I've automatically got a localhost Mac being created. I can now add a server using the wizard, or I can just add a server. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to create a new server. We'll call it Hello World Dev for our Hello World project that we're building. We'll add a host name. This is on Amazon EC2, and we'll give it a build store. Now, a build store is required to be the location on the remote server where we copy the artifacts to enable us to run the deployment. So that's what we're going to connect to. Now, how are we going to connect to it? Well, we're going to use SSH. We're connecting to Amazon, so we'll just connect as the EC2 user. We'll need an SSH key file, which I'm just going to add in there. We can add a username and password, a passphrase, etc. We're not going to manage Java remotely. We're going to just install Java if it's not on there. There are some other settings you can set here. We can also manage the agent. We can change the permissions of the files we're copying. What we will do though is we'll run the deployment as root. So we'll sudo and we'll su -c so that we can run everything in between the two quotes will be run as the root user. Okay, we can also now add a cloud provider if we want to manage the instance using the cloud API. So we're going to choose the Amazon Web Services one. We're going to add in an access key, and we're going to add in a secret key. Then we're going to choose the region we require. We're going to choose the Frankfurt region. Then we're going to click synchronize, and that's going to synchronize this and pull back the data that we need into our panel. We're going to choose the Tomcat Dev instance, which is the one I put the IP address in for. Choose Launch Wizard 7. Now, and the key name is MidVision Jur, as we already saw. Now, what we could do in here is we could create a new instance on deployment if we wanted to. Then we'd need to put in an AMI ID. We wouldn't need to select an existing instance because it would create one. We could tell it how many servers we wanted it to start, so we could give it an AMI ID of, say, Tomcat Dev if that didn't already exist. We could put in a number of servers of, let's say, 10, and it would create Tomcat Dev -1 through to 10, and all of those would be managed as if they were one logical server by the name Hello World Dev that we've got on the previous panel. And then we could manage that so they would get created if they didn't exist, and they would get started if they had been created but weren't running prior to running our deployment jobs on them. In this case, we've already configured the server, we know it's there, so we're just going to say start instance on deployment. So if it's not running, it will be started before we run a deployment. Okay, so now we've got all of our panels configured. We're just going to create that server. That server's been created. We can now click on the transport tab and just test that we can connect to it with all of the values that we've set, and we can see up here that the test connection ran successfully. Okay, so if we go back to the main page now, we'll see that we now have that server configured. What we now need to do is to think about some infrastructure on that server. So currently, if we click on the twisty here, there is no installation on that server. We can go ahead and add an installation to that server. click on the plus here. The parent server is Hello World Dev. We can make the installation name Hello World Jar. Okay, we give it an owner. We have an environment type. So the environment type determines we can group together lots of server installation definitions into an environment. So this might be Hello World Dev. It might also have some other components on it, maybe a web server, maybe a database to back it up. They can all be added to the development environment type, and then we have one logical environment of development. We could then, in theory, create a Hello World test server with a Hello World jar installation on it, and we could put that into the test environment. And this way we can group environments together. I'll put a note on there, and I'm just going to create that. Okay, and now we've created our list of servers and the installations that are on them. So thank you for watching. That's the end of this tutorial, and goodbye.